She sent me a message saying, "Don't bother coming back. I'm changing the locks and the house is mine." My response was a simple, "Okay." After that, I arranged for the sheriff to remove her with an eviction notice, considering I was the sole tenant on the lease. Her bags, piled up on the curb, ended up catching the attention of the local evening news. I'm a 31-year-old guy who received this message out of the blue on a Thursday afternoon at work. My girlfriend of 4 years, Natalie, 29, dropped this bombshell on WhatsApp. "Do not come back tonight or ever again. The locks are being replaced as we speak. This place belongs to me now. I'm done dealing with your mediocrity. Figure out a new place to stay. Your belongings will be on the curb." I stared at the screen for a moment, then replied with a single word, "Okay." I watched the typing bubble appear, vanish, and appear again before she went silent. The glaring issue Natalie completely overlooked, or perhaps never bothered to learn, was that the lease for our townhouse was exclusively in my name. I had been living there for 2 years before she even moved in. She explicitly avoided being added to the lease because she didn't want the financial burden and liked staying flexible. Her exact words, not mine. Meanwhile, I was paying the entire $2,200 monthly rent. She occasionally chipped in for groceries or utilities when she felt like it, but from a legal standpoint, she was an overgrown guest who had overstayed her welcome. Rather than panicking or arguing, I made 3 quick calls. First, I rang my landlord Gary to explain the mess. He actually chuckled. "Does she not realize her name isn't on the paperwork?" he asked. I told him no and asked if he could meet me there with the property management's attorney. He agreed that would be perfect. My second call was to the local sheriff's dispatch to report that my living girlfriend was trying to illegally lock me out of the home I solely leased. They said they would dispatch officers. Finally, I called my friend Derek, who owned the pickup truck, and had a totally free afternoon. "You moving?" he asked. "Nope, evicting," I replied. He laughed, promised to bring our buddy Carlos and the cooler of beer. By 3:30 p.m., a whole squad was waiting with me outside my townhouse. Gary was there with Janet, the property lawyer, alongside 2 deputies. Derek and Carlos showed up with the promised cooler for the aftermath. Sure enough, a brand new shiny deadbolt gleamed on the front door. My clothes, gaming system, and guitar were tossed haphazardly all over the grass, some in trash bags, some just scattered on the lawn. The female officer knocked, announcing the sheriff's department. Natalie swung the door open, dressed to the nines in what I can only call her boss outfit: blazer, heels, and full makeup. She literally dressed up for her big triumphant power play. "Perfect timing, officers," she said, pointing a finger at me. "This man is trespassing on my property." The deputy glanced at Janet, who stepped forward holding the lease. "Ma'am, are you Natalie Morrison, and are you aware this property is leased exclusively to Mr. Daniel Reeves?" Natalie didn't flinch. "We've cohabitated for 2 years. That makes it common law, so it's mine too." Janet actually snorted. "That is absolutely not how common law marriage functions in this state. Even if it did, it doesn't grant you property rights over someone else's rental lease." The male officer stepped in, asking for her proof of residency rights or a lease agreement. Natalie defensively claimed she didn't need documents because she lived there and her things are inside. Janet clarified that made her a month-to-month tenant at best, and confirmed with me that I had just given her verbal notice to vacate. "Right, Natalie, you have 30 days to find the new place," I told her. Her face went from red to purple. "You aren't allowed to do this." "Actually, he is," the female deputy corrected her. "You hired a locksmith under false pretenses. You must let him back into his residence and restore access." Natalie stubbornly refused to let me in, doubling down that it was her home. Gary then stepped up and formally informed her that as the property owner's representative, she was currently trespassing while I was the rightful legal tenant. The reality finally crashed down on her. She looked at all of us, then at her phone, likely trying to figure out who to call. Maybe that paralegal friend she always bragged was a full-blown attorney. The deputy ordered her to vacate the premises immediately, noting that she could arrange with me to pick up her items at a later date. "My belongings, everything in there is mine. I bought the furniture. I decorated this place to make it a home," she yelled. I calmly asked her what exactly she bought. "The TV, the kitchen appliances, we bought those together," she claimed. Janet smiled sweetly and asked if she had any receipts with her name on them. Silence filled the air. Natalie was escorted outside, wobbling slightly in her power heels. She threatened it was illegal and she would sue. I reminded her she technically had 30 days, but since she changed the locks and explicitly stated she didn't want to live with me, I assumed she was leaving immediately. She glared at me with pure hatred, accusing me of planning this. I simply pointed out that she sent the text claiming the house. I just reminded everyone who was actually on the lease. While Derek and Carlos quietly gathered my yard-scattered stuff and checked for damage, Gary had his locksmith come to swap the locks back. "Where am I supposed to go?" she demanded. I told her that wasn't my problem, and she should have considered the logistics before attempting an illegal eviction. The next 2 hours were incredibly intense. Update 1. The new locksmith arrived in under 45 minutes. While he worked, Natalie paced the lawn, sobbing loudly on the phone to anyone who would listen, playing the ultimate victim. Nobody seemed to be offering her immediate shelter, though. Once the door was open, the deputies made it clear she could enter, supervised by me, to pack absolute essentials for the night like clothes, meds, and toiletries. She tried to lay claim to the bedroom furniture from Ashley Furniture, the couch, the dining table, and the desk. Every single time, I pulled up the digital receipts from my email. Digital records are a beautiful thing. The only item she could definitively prove were hers was a hideous piece of abstract art her sister painted and the set of meditation cushions. Janet documented the entire process on her phone. She even tried to swipe the coffee maker, claiming we used it together. I proved I bought it on Amazon in 2019, long before she moved in. She slammed it down on the counter with enough force that I thought it would shatter. Around 6 p.m., she was fuming on the sidewalk with 2 suitcases just as a local newsman pulled up. A neighbor probably tipped them off about a dramatic illegal eviction on the street, but they had the roles totally reversed. The reporter rushed to a tearful, distressed Natalie, asking what was happening. Natalie saw her window and claimed her unstable boyfriend was throwing her out onto the street after 4 years with zero warning because she changed the locks for her own safety. The reporter's expression immediately shifted, asking Natalie if she really sent the text. Natalie shrieked about harassment, grabbed her luggage, and stormed off the street with one of her suitcase wheels squeaking dramatically. The news crew filmed her retreat but quickly realized the story was a bust. My buddies and I enjoyed a beer on my porch while Gary finished up paperwork. Derek warned me she wasn't finished, and he was absolutely right. That evening, my phone blew up with messages from her sister, her mom, and unknown numbers calling me heartless, petty, and cruel for throwing away the best years of her life. I screenshotted every single one and didn't reply. By Friday morning, I had 62 missed calls and unhinged voicemails, swinging wildly from sobbing apologies to weird sexual propositions to violent threats that she would destroy my life. Around noon, she pulled up in a U-Haul with her mom, Patricia, her sister, Elena, and 2 bulky guys I didn't recognize. I was completely prepared. Derek and Carlos were there, and I had requested a civil standby from the sheriff's department, so Deputy Melissa was present. I told her she could get her things, but I was documenting everything that went out the door. Patricia immediately marched up to me, asking how I could do this to the woman who made me a better person. I asked her to name one specific improvement, considering I had the exact same job, friends, and rental house before she came along. Elena chimed in about how much Natalie loved me, to which I replied that attempting to steal my home was entitlement, not love. Natalie refused to even look at me. Her muscle guys started grabbing furniture, but I stopped them, pointing at the coffee table and demanding proof. For 3 grueling hours, we had to verify ownership for every item. I pulled up receipts for the TV, the soundbar, the dining table, and even a clearance area rug from Target I bought before we met. Her actual pile of belongings was embarrassingly small. Books, her ugly art, meditation gear, clothes, and some kitchen gadgets from her mom. Though we did argue about the planters, which I proved I bought. The absolute peak was when she tried to take my air fryer, claiming it was a birthday gift from her. I reminded her she only gave me a card that said I owe you 1 air fryer, and I eventually bought it myself a week later. When her mom gasped and called me a liar, I calmly went to my desk, dug out the actual handwritten IOU card, and held it up. Elena actually looked embarrassed. By 4 p.m., they had loaded the U-Haul with her actual belongings, maybe $500 worth after a 4-year relationship. Patricia loudly announced I was stealing from her daughter. I replied that her daughter attempted to steal my entire house, and I was being generous letting her take anything she couldn't prove she bought. Natalie finally spoke, threatening to reveal embarrassing secrets about me, like the fact that I played Dungeons & Dragons and cried during Avengers Endgame. The deputy finally interrupted and shooed them away. Update 2. Saturday morning brought a complete social media firestorm. Natalie went nuclear, posting a massive, highly creative essay across Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. She claimed her narcissistic ex made her homeless, financially abused her by making her dependent, and threw her out without any warning. According to her fictional narrative, she paid half of everything, a complete lie. I isolated her from her family, whom she saw twice a week, and I was emotionally controlling, even though I never complained about her Vegas trip with her ex-boyfriend. Some people bought into it, and her echo chamber filled the comments with angry emojis. But then the tide turned beautifully. Derek commented asking how she afforded a $2,000 handbag last month if she was so financially controlled. My old roommate Tom pointed out that I let her redecorate my man cave into a yoga studio without a single complaint. The ultimate kill shot came from her former best friend, Ashley. They had a falling out over an MLM. Ashley posted screenshots of Natalie bragging about living totally rent-free, saying things like, "Why pay rent